welcome to this BAKERpedia seminar all about baking bread. I'm Mark Flurker, your host for today. This seminar is brought to you by Enzyme Innovation, with a customer and industry focus on natural, clean label products. Enzymes have become an essential ingredient for bakers. Enzyme Innovation is a research-driven manufacturer with expertise in the application of industrial enzymes and probiotics for baking. They offer natural solutions for replacing chemical and dough conditioner ingredients while improving product quality. And Goodway Technologies. With over 55 years of providing innovative maintenance and sanitation solutions, Goodway Technologies has the industry's most reliable surface and conveyor belt sanitizing equipment for robust hygiene and food production plants. Industrial bakeries, snack producers, produce processing facilities, and breweries are just some of the places where sanitation professionals can find Goodway's high-quality machines. Also, Lysafra North America. You may know Lysafra for our world-class baking yeast and 170-year heritage, but you may not be familiar with their elite technical team and the other innovative ingredients they've developed. In addition to their fresh, dry, and deactivated yeasts, Lysafra offers a range of innovative and high-quality baking ingredients for any application or process, from buns and rolls to pastries, bagels, pretzels, tortillas, and more. And J&K Ingredients. J&K Ingredients is a leader in providing freshness naturally, offering a full portfolio of natural, clean label, and organic ingredient technologies that improve the fresh quality, texture, and taste of any bakery product. They work tirelessly to create products formulated to be the highest quality available in the marketplace, many created specifically to a client's individual requirements. Today, we are joined by Deepak Rhoda. Deepak Rhoda is the Vice President of Market and Business Development at Enzyme Innovation. In his 28 years of rich experience in the enzymes and probiotics, Deepak has traveled to more than 34 countries and covered everything from product and application development to sales and marketing. Currently, Deepak is responsible for the market and business development in the Americas and Far East countries. Evan Reyes. Evan Reyes is the Global Director of Sales Sanitation Division for Goodway Technologies, a global leader in industrial maintenance, cleaning, and sanitation solutions. With over a decade at Goodway, he has positioned himself as an industry expert in food safety and sanitation best practices. Evan brings hands-on experience from hundreds of visits and product demonstrations and food and beverage production plants for Goodway Solutions. Solutions that include innovative dry steam generation systems, specialized industrial vacuums, and PureBelt, a registered trademark, automated conveyor belt cleaning systems. Now, let's dive into the world of baking bread. So I'm going to start us off with a quick presentation. This presentation, the contents of it is also available for you to download for free from our pocket guide. And so I will load up our presentation here. Today we're talking about baking bread, and as we've mentioned, our various sponsors, and we have Deepak and Evan, who will have short presentations right after me, and then we'll get to your questions. So as a reminder, put your questions in the Q&A box, not in the chat. That way we can capture them for reference for the future. Okay, so first of all, we're talking about the bread market, which has a market value of $533.38 billion US dollars as of 2025. And the bread market has a compound annual growth rate of 6.25% from 2025 to 2030 is what we're expecting. That's better than the Dow Jones, okay? Invest in bread. Novel current trends are surging due to consumers' interest in healthier baked goods. And we'll kind of touch on that just a little bit, right? So the basics of this presentation, the structure is going to be the introduction, ingredients, formulation, quality control, and processing. And you'll see how this then dovetails into the following presentations right afterwards, right? So, bread is one of the most commonly consumed baked goods. It comes in so many different varieties and shapes. It's very versatile, it's convenient, and there are many different types of textures of bread. Mostly, we tend to think of soft bread. And with our ingredients, the number one ingredient in bread, of course, is flour. It's the structure builder. It entraps gas. It supports yeast activity, and it participates in the Maillard reaction. Water obviously hydrates the flour. It also supports yeast fermentation. It influences shelf life, and the water hardness affects dough strength. So harder water tends to give you a weaker dough. Softer water gives you a stronger dough. Right? Leavening agents is yeast. So yeast is our leavening agent, sorry. It produces carbon dioxide. There's, of course, also other produces flavors and aroma and compounds. So these are things like lactic acid and the brewing flavors and things like that. And it provides inactivated yeast, which has an effect on the gluten formation and relaxing it and so on, right? Fat impacts flavor, the lubricity of getting things off of your palate and making it taste nice and rich. So it improves texture, it keeps the bread soft as well, and it influences shelf life. And it is a tenderizer. And eggs are something that we use a lot in bread, and it is something that enhances the texture in a variety of different ways as far as um, emulsification and so on. And it also improves flavor and the Maillard reaction. And it improves the crust color, and it aids in softening the crumb of the bread as well. Sugar, of course, for fermentation is the yeast loves sugar, right? And it provides sweetness, and we love sweetness, right? And it enhances color again by Maillard reaction. It's actually with sugar, it tends to really be more caramelization than just Maillard reaction, but that's sort of a scientific differentiation. What's really important, it improves shelf life because it traps water and helps keep things nice and soft and prevents things from going moldy, right? And salt, it enhances flavor, obviously, helps things taste salty, but it also lifts other flavors to the foreground. And it has a strengthening effect on the gluten network and the way that it charges the proteins. And so it can improve dough elasticity, meaning that how much it pulls back. And it regulates fermentation. If your dough is fermenting too fast, sometimes the best thing is to increase the salt rather than reducing the yeast. Right? Um, Gives you more control that way and better flavor. So emulsifiers enhance stability, they improve texture and improve shelf life. And Deepak's going to be telling us a lot more about shelf life, right? But the common emulsifiers that we see in breads are monodiglycerides, lecithin, also some hydrocolloids like guar and xanthan, and other new clean label enzymes, which is, you see how that dovetails right into our enzyme innovation coming up. And other minor ingredients are it adds strength to the dough, improves elasticity, and improves machinability and improves volume. And this is where our sponsor, Enzyme Innovation, is Deepak's going to be telling us about Sebake. These are amazing enzymes, and without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to offer you these things for free. So please do inform yourselves of their offerings, and don't be shy to ask for samples and support. Right? Other minor ingredients are things like calcium propionate, cultured wheat, diastatic malt, and non-diastatic malt. J&K Breadmate is something that offers you cultured wheat and other natural mold inhibitors. Again, another sponsor of this BAKERview. And processing. And we're going to also hear from Evan on sanitation and processing. Our sponsor is Goodway. They have this amazing technology with dry steam. And so in processing, we're looking at ingredient preparation, obviously, mixing the dough. And in many cases, there's an autolyse. Sometimes there's bulk fermentation or a pre-ferment. And then eventually we get to the dividing and pre-shaping. Most commonly, there's some form of a bench rest until there is then the final shaping, the final proofing, and the scoring, baking, and cooling. And these are the basic steps of processing. So in our pocket guide as well, you can find these standard formulations. Here is a standard white pan bread formulation. And as you will note, everything is in baker's percent. So for example, the sponge here is made up of 70% of the flour and 43% of the water, which is actually a 62% absorption, and 1.5% compressed yeast. If you're using instant, you would use roughly 1/3 of that. Shout out to Lysafra, our sponsor on yeast, right? And you could use an enzyme such as protease, right, in this area. And then all the other standard ingredients that you would have to make a white pan bread. Here's an example of a whole wheat bread. And these are not regulated formulas, but these are standard formulas to give you a good starting basis of things. And here is a hamburger bun formula, which is a much richer formula. It contains milk. It also contains a much higher level of granulated sugar and fat, right? And then here's something completely different, is keto. And keto, of course, is where we have no flour. Don't have the carbohydrates. And in keto, what we're using here instead is a wheat protein isolate and a digestion-resistant wheat starch, which allows us to form a dough with some inulin for added fiber, and it helps provide a little bit of structure. And so this has very similar processing and handling properties to a regular wheat flour dough, but it produces a keto bread, which is very low in carbohydrates for those on a keto diet. And there you can see dough enzymes are still something that are appropriate in this, right? So in quality control, we will look at a variety of parameters. We'll look at things like moisture content, water activity. Moisture is of course is important for understanding, what our shelf life is in that sense, right? But water activity is also important in terms of understanding what our shelf life may be, in that the lower the water activity, the less access yeast and mold have to water for fermenting. Protein is something that we look at on the flour side of things, as for the strength of the flour and the dough. A texture analyzer we'll see in some slides that Deepak has on how we are measuring softness and firmness of breads, and it helps give us information relative to staling. Consistency is then for the doughs, something like a Mixolab, for example, right? And other parameters on extensibility, elasticity, volume can be done by rapeseed or also by laser and things. And so there's lots of other these parameters. And again, these are all in the pocket guide available to you to download for free. So we'd like to thank once again our sponsors, Lysafra, J&K Ingredients, Goodway Technologies, and of course, Enzyme Innovations. And I am going to turn it over to Deepak now, who can share his presentation with us.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deepak Roda, and today I'm going to talk about the CBEC Fresh Ultra from our company, Enzyme Innovation. So, as we all know, freshness is very important parameter when it comes to the baked products. It not like it not only helps to keep the various baked products fresher for a longer time, but it also helps to improve many other texture properties and also helps to save a lot of money. So let us see how Civic Fresh Ultra helps and how it helps to improve the baked product quality. So today, if we see trends in baked goods, there are concerns from suppliers and there are a lot of demands from the consumers. The prevalent consumer supplier concerns are returns of the baked products due to its stale-ness. Some baked product they like have the very short shelf life, like 3 days and 5 days. Normally, it is like 7 days or 14 days kind of breads which are there onto the rack. But yet, like there are a lot of breads which comes back to the producer because of the stillness and it gone over the shelf life of the bread. A lot of losses during the production and distribution because of the loss in the various texture properties. There are several losses at the consumer level, and there are environmental issues what suppliers are facing. Example, if like the breads are coming back to their production units, the big challenge is how to dispose of those breads. That leads to like increased carbon footprints, which is a great concern in today's world. On the other side, the consumers, they are demanding soft and moist baked goods. Uh, there are a lot of demand coming on the organic and healthy options. Everyone is really concerned about the health today. Like Mark presented a couple of options like the keto breads, or it's like a no flour breads kind of stuff, or the gluten-free breads. Many companies they are coming out with some specialty baked products and which they want to keep it for fresher for a longer time. Consumer also wants it, and all this is needed by consumer in really a reasonable cost. So this poses like a lot of challenges onto the producer. So let's look at like what are the causes in freshness loss in baked goods. Now, the first and foremost is the retrogradation of starch. Starch has two different portions. One is amylose and another is amylopectin chains. So the starch retrogradation is a phenomenon of starch recrystallization after the gelatinization during the cooling period, which becomes hardened and it holds the uh, moisture there for a very long time. So due to this crystallization, the bread becomes really hard. There's loss of water also. There's also loss of moisture due to the exposure of the baked goods air, and not everyone can provide the appropriate storage temperature during the storage or during the transit. So all this results into change in mouthfeel, loss of resilience. This is very important. Everyone like needs a resilient bake, at least the bread, whomsoever I have talked to. This also leads to loss of taste and aroma, gets into high rancid baked products, stale flavor, dry and brittle crust and crown. So it's the producers, they are looking how to prolong the freshness and softness, and like people are using different tools. Example, providing proper storage conditions, packaging, using different kind of emulsifiers, sugars, preservatives, and but all these ingredients, of course, they help to prolong softness or freshness in some way, uh, but probably they are not the cleanest or the cleaner alternatives. An enzyme is something where that's a good tool, a solution, and very clean ingredient. So we here provide an enzyme by name Cibec Fresh Ultra, which helps to prolong the softness and freshness in the baked products. So what is Cibec Fresh Ultra? Cibec Fresh Ultra, it's a powerful and high-performing maltogenic amylase enzyme. The way it acts onto it acts onto the amylopectin portion of the starch that you see here. There are like the branch chains. The linear chain is like amylose, but then these are branch chains. So these are amylopectin portions. So Cibec Fresh Ultra acts on to a non-reducing end here of the amylopectin portion, amylopectin chain, and it converts into a maltose and produce different polysaccharides. So once this is like the amylopectin portion is degraded, the phenomenon of starch recrystallization that reduces down very significantly. So the benefits of Cibec Fresh Ultra here is it leads to a condition of very few returns, and thus it helps to improve the profits for a producer. It helps to improve and prolong the softness of baked products, helps to increase the moistness, provides fresh mouthfeel, helps to attain a better crumb resilience, and a very soft squeeze. So Civic Fresh Ultra can be used in variety of breads. Uh, Even it can be used into other baked products such as muffins, cakes, or bagels, or even pizza, frozen dough, keto breads. It can be used across a gamut of. So here is some, like I'm going to present its performance in a sandwich bread real quick. So the study here is, the summary of the study we done is we tested Civic Fresh Ultra at different dosage, 25 ppm, 50 ppm, and 100 ppm in sandwich bread versus the control. The control have no enzyme here, and we used a no time dough process. What we found out here is 100 ppm Civic Fresh Ultra, it performs the best in overall texture analysis and even in sensory evaluation. Amazing result about Civic Fresh Ultra at 100 ppm is it kept the bread fresher even over 30 days, compared to control. And breads baked with Civic Fresh Ultra, they were softer, they were springier, had better foldability, a good mouthfeel, and better taste. So the baking formula we used is pretty standard. We use wheat flour, sugar, salt, enzyme, Civic Fresh Ultra, use calcium propionate here, instant yeast shortening, and water. So here we have a control and three dosages, 25 ppm of Civic Fresh Ultra, 50 ppm, and 100 ppm. In the process, we use no time dough method, where the mixing, we use 3 minutes mixing at speed 1, 6 minutes mixing at speed 2. The floor time was 20 minutes, and the proofing conditions, they were at 100 Fahrenheit at 85 percentage relative humidity for 60 minutes, and then we baked bread. The baking time was 19 minutes at 425 Fahrenheit. So what we found out is there's no any impact onto the loaf volume. Control and the treatment, they show the same loaf volume. Even the specific volume, they're very similar, very same, no changes. In looking at the crust color, there's no change into the crust color with the treatment and control. We look at L, A, and B values, they are very similar, treatment and control. There is no change into even the whiteness and also the crumb color and grain. So very similar, you can see in the picture here, control, the treatment, different dosage. Now, this is something very important. very important here, very important slide. What we are presenting here is the softness, and then this is the squeeze test of the law. Now, if you may notice here on the day one, the softness which is in the control, what it is there. On the day 31, when we compare here, the treatment on day 31 is softer than the control on the day one. So imagine the kind of softness Cibec Fresh Ultra is able to provide at BPM. So it's like we are prolonging softness here by 30 days. And this is done by the texture analyzer. You see the instrument here, what we have used. This is from our lab. And we also did the slice firmness test. This is also by the texture analyzer. So when we compare the slice firmness on day one of control compared to the day 31 on the treatment, the slice softness here is a little bit better on day 31 in treatment compared to the control on day one. So this keeps like bread really, really softer. Though it has gone softer, but then the bread also remains the springier. If we look at the springiness test here on day one compared to control and day 31, the treatment. So on day 31 in the treatment, the breads are springier compared to the control on day one. So which means the enzyme is performing very selectively on the amylopectin portion, and it is not disturbing any other ingredient or additives or parameter in this particular. So when we review this texture analysis here, this is from day 1 until day 21. We look at like the firmness, the breads are much softer, loaves are much softer, even the slice is softer, and the breads are springier. Here you could see the pictures on the resilience and the foldability. On the left, it is the control, and this is on day 37. If you try and fold the bread, it is breaking into pieces. It is gone very brittle and dry. But if you look at the treatment here with the Cibec Fresh Ultra at 100 ppm, the bread is highly resilient, very soft and moist, and very, very resilient here. If you look at the foldability here, the slices, they are more foldable on day 7 and even on day 40. And much superior to the control performance. So softer again on day 7 and day 14 compared to control, the treatment. So if you see here, it's like at 50 ppm and 100 ppm, kind of something similar which is coming up. Depending on the kind of big product one is doing, one may have to use 50 or 75 ppm. This could be decided after the bench scale trial of a particular big product. So this is overall sensory evaluation on day 7. We look at like the spring back, foldability, softness, mouthfeel, taste. The treatment is much better compared to control. The same trend on day 14, but then the difference is increasing. The control is getting really bad here, and the treatment is still retaining its performance. So that's a total score on the sensory properties. If we look at the control, the total score in the control is 62.3, and with the treatment, it is 84 all the way up to 94. So from these studies, what we can conclude is Civic Fresh Ultra, it prolonged the freshness, softness, and springiness. Softness on day 31 with Civic Fresh Ultra, it was very similar to the controlled softness on day one. It also improved the foldability and mouthfeel while maintaining very fresh taste. And bread made with Civic Fresh Ultra was more resilient, tasted better than the controlled bread. And Civic Fresh Ultra performed very similar or better than the control in overall texture analysis and sensory evaluation. So that's a benefit, and that's how Civic Fresh Ultra performs. I recommend everyone to try this one and check how it goes and how well the benefit which comes out of Civic Fresh Ultra. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Deepak. That was super informative. It's amazing how such a low level of 25 parts per million of the enzyme can be so effective already. And, that's like if you had a million teaspoons of flour, it's only 25 teaspoons of enzyme.
That's it. That's the power of
Yeah,
enzyme, Mark, and
yeah,
this particular enzyme is really a high performing new generation
very
product.
powerful. Yeah, very powerful. All right. Um, Evan, can we turn it over to you now for your presentation?
Absolutely, I'm ready.
Excellent, thank you. So here we have Goodway Technologies, and this is also going to be very interesting. It's going to fit right together.
So thanks so much, Mark and Deepak. Really interesting presentations on the proper mix of ingredients, processes, and enzymes to keep product fresh. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the other side after production and ensuring proper sanitation in a bakery and how that also works into maintaining product quality and freshness. Sanitation is often underlooked, but definitely important to ensure a high quality product, reduce yeast and mold counts and resulting customer complaints, especially in humidity in summer months where moisture might get into the environment. Sanitation really plays a crucial role in ensuring we deliver a good finished product to the customer. So as part of that, I'm just going to give a really quick uh, for those of you who are not familiar with Goodway, we are a company that specializes in helping the baking industry strengthen sanitation programs through the introduction of innovative cleaning equipment. We're here in Stamford, Connecticut. We are a global company. We have offices all over the world, and we have teams of field experts that visit customers every day to help them strengthen their sanitation programs. We specialize in various sanitation equipment. Today, we're going to focus in on conveyor belt cleaning and eliminating the use of water in sanitation for cleaning conveyor belts and equipment after the ovens, and how that would help to strengthen product quality. So looking into conveyor belt cleaning for post-oven belts after the depanner, typically for transfer belts that go from the depanner to the spiral cooler, or from the spiral cooler to packaging, we see either customers do a quick, they blow them down with compressed air or wipe the belts, and maybe on a periodic basis remove the belts for sanitation in a washroom, maybe once a quarter or twice a year or once a year, and some type of frequency based on the perceived risk in the facility. These methods, just blowing down with air, is not very effective. Tends to blow soils from one area to another, and can cause small yeast or mold particles to become airborne and settle where we don't want them. And for blowing off, food contact surfaces, really not a strong practice. And then removing belts for soaking in a washroom or pressure washing in a washroom can be very time intensive and could lead to other challenges as well, but does need to happen on a periodic basis. For larger spiral cooler systems or spiral freezers, we typically see customers do a full washdown of those conveyors on either a bi-weekly or a monthly basis, sometimes even weekly. That does a great job cleaning the surface of the cooler and making sure that the conveyor is clean. But using all that water introduces humidity into the environment after the ovens, and we always want to limit moisture to limit potential for yeast and mold and other microorganism growth. So when we do those full wet washes of a spiral, we might see an uptick in yeast and mold counts and um, customer complaints and product quality issues. So some of the challenges we see, yeast and mold growth after the introduction of water, a lot of labor needed to remove and reinstall belts, longer production downtime for spirals that are wet washed, as they typically take quite a while to dry once they've been cleaned with water. Reduced lifespan of conveyor belts, and then just in general subpar cleaning results. So we use dry steam cleaning systems to help overcome some of these challenges. First, I'll just quickly go through what dry steam is. It's superheated steam that we raise the temperature and pressure really high, compress the water to turn it into a gas that doesn't introduce moisture into the environment. It hits the surface and then it evaporates, and we leave no water behind. So moisture content is very low, but it is a high temperature, which helps us to reduce micro counts in everything we touch. Some advantages of using this technology for conveyor belt cleaning: it introduces no moisture, so now we can clean belts to a more thorough level while keeping the environment dry and reducing a potential for yeast and mold growth. The heat transfer to the belt surface also will reduce yeast and mold counts from just the thermal heat transfer. We're able to remove contaminants and microbial growth, reducing likelihood of belt degradation for belts that maybe are challenging to clean or don't get that thoroughly cleaned. We see less breakdowns of belts during production when we keep the belts clean. We also avoid any potential damage to the belts from certain cleaning chemistries or scrubbing or scraping and that kind of thing. The cleaning is gentle on the conveyors. We've also have many customers that use our systems for allergen cleaning, for removal of tree nuts, trace amounts of milk and butter bread products, and sesame seeds and various other seeds. We also use our systems for raisin breads, and it does a really nice job removing raisins from belts as well. So a lot of good application for removing allergen for more thorough cleaning. Some advantages of belt cleaning automation: frees up sanitation and maintenance for other tasks. We improve production uptime, reduce strain on operators and exposure to chemical from cleaning. And it also gives you a consistent cleaning. It doesn't miss spots, and we achieve a very high level of cleaning as well. So this is what the system looks like. I'm going to skip ahead to the next slide, which has a cool video I want to show you. But we have a system that fits onto the frame of a conveyor. It's adjustable in and out, so we can move it around from one conveyor to the next. We apply dry steam, and the head moves back and forth. So I'll play this video so you can see what it looks like. This first video is mounted on just a long transfer conveyor.
That is excellent. Very intriguing. Okay. Of course, the belt moves, so you don't have to move the equipment.
Right, yeah. You just set it up and let it do its thing. And you can see down on the floor, we just have dry debris and crumbs, so we don't have pools of water. So we're able to very thoroughly clean the belt without, getting everything soaking wet. And we typically would just put a catch pan or a tarp down on the floor and tie it up and move on to the next belt. So here's the same system in use on a spiral cooler. I'll just play this video.
Very good.
Other spiral. And so the system is allow us to clean the belts very thoroughly, eliminate that water, and just do a more effective cleaning on belts after the ovens. So here's a quick case study. We had a customer in the Northeast who was cleaning their racetrack coolers manually, and they would remove it by section with maintenance teams and sanitation working together to remove the belts, take them to a washroom, clean them, then reinstall them, and using about 120 hours of labor time per week to get that done. It was a big team of people every week doing this. They were able to get away from all of that and just clean the belts in place with our system, significantly reducing cleaning time and also achieving a 95% labor savings.
Wow.
They're also able to use the steamer while not used for conveyor cleaning with the wand and the gun to clean slicers and baggers and depanners and other challenging equipment. So it was a multi-use tool for the bakery, and they really saw a lot of success from it. So that's it for me. Thank you so much, everybody, and Mark.
That was awesome. Thank you very much. So this, as I was saying, how this dovetails for everyone is that it's critical. You can have the enzyme to extend the freshness and shelf life of your bread, and if you have the proper sanitation procedures in place, you're also going to eliminate or significantly reduce the chance of mold growth, and so that it all pairs together with that shelf life situation. Do we have some questions from our audience that we can get to?
Yes, Civic Fresh Ultra is gluten-free.
The short answer is no. um, Potassium bromate is a great oxidizer in bread doughs. It was they started phasing it out in 1995. There are a few states, and I believe Puerto Rico and some countries that still use it, but it is considered a carcinogen. The replacement for potassium bromate is a combination of azoticarbonamide, L-cysteine, and ascorbic acid, and they have to be balanced for the type of breads or products that you are making. There are some standard blends available. I believe J&K Ingredients may have one as well. In Canada, I know ADM Milling have one called NFA, no time fermentation additive. And so there's a combination of these things to work on the various different gluten properties and starch properties to give you as close as possible of a potassium bromate simulation. And that's probably the best you can get at this point, because there isn't anything enzyme wise that you could really do with this, right, Deepak? Because this is more of an oxidation thing, right?
So, Mark, there are enzymes which are available, to replace the bromate, and
Oh,
even the
really?
ADA. Yeah, even the ADA now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, historically, like enzymes, they remained on working on starch, but there are a lot of now enzymes which are working on gluten and the xylan and the other properties. So one of the classes of enzymes which is available is called oxidoreductases. So there are different oxidoreductases they are available, and as you said, hey, like we have to work on the different ingredients there to balance the performance of replacing
Mhm.
the bromate. So we created blend of enzymes there, which kind of comes very close to the performance of the potassium bromate and even replacing the ADA. Certain countries, in my knowledge, where I recall, even the use of ADA is not allowed.
Mhm.
And that's where people are also looking for the replacement
Yeah.
of ADA.
Yeah, in Europe, ADA is not allowed in a lot of
Not
places. And there was an issue a few years back where Subway sandwiches decided to replace the ADA in all their breads as well, right? Very interesting. That's good. So there are a combination of solutions, but as Deepak and I have mentioned, you have to fine tune it for your product, right? So there isn't a drop in, right? That really depends on your equipment and processes. Sponge and dough tends to be the classic method that is deployed a lot still throughout the US, because the sponge process gives you an opportunity to relax some of the gluten proteins for better pumping and so on. However, with the innovation of enzymes, such as with enzyme innovation and ingredients that are available through LISAF and J&K, there are no-time solutions, even for high throughput systems. Some of the purists will say that it changes the flavor. So it depends on your objectives and how it comes out for you, right? If it achieves everything that you want, you can do it as a no time. But most commonly in the US, the larger producers, US and Canada, still do sponge and dough.
So in our observation, until 31 days, there was no formation of any mold, under standard storage conditions when it is used with Civet Fresh Ultra. But in control, we saw a little bit slight mold formation there in the control over 30 days, 31 days. So that is one thing. And when it comes to packaging and other stuff, so Civet Fresh Ultra is a beautiful enzyme. It helps to retain the moisture. It binds the moisture. It's not like free moisture which is there. So the ability of the any mold or mold formation or access to any bacterial stuff that doesn't come, or mold, it doesn't come very quick, because everything is in a bound form there. So it is providing the softness, but then it is also help to prevent or delay the mold formation. Of course, it doesn't work as a mold inhibitor, but it helps to delay the formation of the mold in the process.
Mm-hmm. And I think I would add to that, although these were not my experiments, but from past experience and in general, when it comes to bread production, when the bread comes out of the oven, there is no yeast or mold or anything alive on it. It's all contamination out of the air and whatever it contaminates. So there ties into, where a good way can help you to ensure that when it gets depanned and it's onto the belts, if everything is clean, that's going to help you with that 31-day shelf life as well, to make sure that it is mold free. Am I right, Evan?
That's correct.
Well, there's a lot of options there. First of all, the easiest part, of course, is the fat replacement. You can replace the butter with shortening. I would not recommend liquid vegetable oil, although that can be done to some extent. But there's such a high amount of fat in a brioche that it makes the dough too soft, right? So a shortening is usually best. Um, where it gets trickier is then things like the milk and the eggs, right? And so you can use various types of protein replacements for that. And then for the color, you can use things like annatto. And for strengthening the dough in replacing the eggs, you can add additional vital wheat gluten, or even wheat protein isolates as well can be beneficial. Um, and so then when it comes to the browning, the Maillard for glazing, Puratos and a couple of other companies now have egg-free egg washes. So the Puratos one has a thing called sunset glaze, right? And it uses pea protein and soy protein. And so these work wonderfully, right? They do need to be shaken before applied. Sometimes the ingredients settle a little bit. but they work great. I've experimented with them quite a bit, and they produce fantastic results. And so you can get extremely close. Flavor wise, you can add things like custard flavors, and there are vegan butter flavors available as well, to get that rich, buttery, eggy flavor that you would get in a non-vegan bun.
No, Civic Fresh Ultra doesn't increase the product sweetness. What happens here is when Civic Fresh Ultra is acting onto the starch, it is producing maltose and some oligosaccharides. The maltose which has been produced is mostly it gets utilized during the fermentation. So this like very insignificant level of maltose which remains there, and oligosaccharides which is also remaining on the that doesn't add to any sweetness there. So Civic Fresh Ultra, it's not increasing the sweetness.
Absolutely. So it's a portable unit. We provide it with a stainless steel cart to transport around the facility. And then it's meant to go easily from one belt to the next. So 100% it's completely portable and adjustable to fit various belt sizes and widths.
Yes, so we have a great battery of lipases, where we create using lipases, we create a solution to replace emulsifiers, datum, SSLs. Yes. So one of the product what we have here is BAKErPF, and then that helps to replace the datum uh, more than 80% or 90, not replace, but I would say reduce. It's up to 80-90% it would reduce. So if I may recall, there is Civic PF 20 or 30 ppm of PF that would replace 0.3% of datum which has been used in the farm.
Wow, that's excellent. That's going to depend somewhat on formulation and objectives, but on a standard type of bread formula, we can theorize that the bake loss is usually around 12%, meaning that you lose about 12% of the weight that you started with through evaporation in the baking cycle. So having said that, if you take a 1 pound loaf, 454 grams, and divide that by 0.88, you will end up with about 517 grams, I think it is, right? So that if your dough weight is around 517 or 520, then you will end up with a 1 pound loaf afterwards after baking. The volume is again relative to the flour performance as well as the other ingredients in the formula. So there isn't like a standard that 300 grams of flour always produces volume X, right? It all depends. I mean, you can see volumes anywhere from 1800 to 2400 cc's, depending on the formula and processing and everything else.
So this particular dry steam technology, we would use to clean outside of pipes. For inside of pipes, we have different solutions for pipe brushing that might be more applicable, just depending on the applications. But if you shoot me an email with some photos, I could point you in the direction of the best solution for what you're looking to accomplish.
Very good. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I was starting to think mixed plants. They could probably, if they want to do an allergen clean, if you have a dry solution for something like that, that would be great. Yeah.
So as I said earlier, Civic Fresh Ultra, it will delay the formation of the mold, but then it is not like in a mold inhibitor. Uh, if this is the whole wheat bread, 100 ppm of Civic Fresh Ultra, that would really help to make the bread more soft and retain it fresh for a longer time. Uh, a little bit of course, the mold inhibitor that has to be added if one doesn't want to form the mold inside. Now, this also depends on to how long you are declaring the shelf life there for the wheat bread. If it is for 4 or 5 days or 7 days, then I don't think so there is any need of using any mold inhibitor. But anything beyond 5 or 7 days, then a mold inhibitor would be needed here.
Yeah, and one of the mold inhibitor solutions I would suggest that it does not get labeled as a preservative, it's a clean label, is the BakeMate from J&K Ingredients, which uses cultured wheat and cultured dextrose, I believe. And that provides you with a solution to help prevent mold growth that is clean label, right? And of course, as Evan has pointed out, it's uh, keeping everything sanitized, right? I mean, keeping everything clean. Like I so often keeps repeating myself in that sense is that when the bread comes out of the oven, it's sterile. It's just been sterilized. If you put something in a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes, there's no mold there. It's when it comes out of the oven. So ensure that everything that the bread comes in contact with after it leaves the oven is clean. Do not touch it with bare hands. Make sure you're wearing clean gloves. Make sure it cools sufficiently before it gets sliced and or packaged. And those are the important steps to have, especially when you're a small, medium-sized bakery.
Yes, so of course, I would like to know the ingredients which is being used to make the bread. But if this is selling next day, I'm sure there are some challenging ingredients which has been used to make the bread. As long as there is so the staleness would come out from the retrogradation of starch. That is like a primary thing. And I'm sure the Civic Fresh Ultra, that would certainly help there. But email me the ingredients which has been used to make this bread, and then can advise suitably how much and what to use in the process.
Yeah, the other thing with that to check is to watch your arrival times in the baking process. So if you are reaching the arrival time, the kill step, too late in the process, you will end up creating something that will promote staling. Or if it's far too early, you're losing volume, obviously, and then you're evaporating too much moisture. So ensuring the bake process is being performed properly, that you have good heat transfer and the right temperature and in your ovens and so on, that is key to also together with the ingredients and the right kind of enzyme selection to maintain freshness without staling. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. Right. My thanks to Evan Reyes of Goodway Technologies, Deepak of Enzyme Innovation, and our other sponsors as well, Lusafra and J&K Ingredients. This has been BakerPedia's BakerView on breads, and join us next month for the next one. Take care, everyone.